Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 50. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. Dave, Steelers, they got their revenge. The best way to do it. Their season continues. They move one step closer to a wild card spot, and they end the Cleveland Browns season.
Yeah, with all for all practicality, mathematically, I guess Cleveland's still alive, but it's become really a 3 or 4 team race here now for what looks to be like one wild card spot. And you go back a couple weeks ago and all that transpired at the end of that game and all the talk since then, and Cleveland came into this game favored, a rare instance of the Browns being favored, especially not only that, but in a game in Pittsburgh at that. This was the season that the Browns were crowned preseason champions before this thing got even started. The Steelers, of course, came into this game with a lot of younger and unproven players on the offensive side of the football, and you got to take as Heinz Ward say, you have to take your hat off and hand it to them because they got the job done. I'm sure there were a lot of people who were doubting whether they could get this done in this game. There were points where it wasn't pretty. I'm sure the style points won't be racked up in this one for sure. But the fact is they held them to 13 points. We kind of knew heading into this game that they're going to have to keep the score down as usual and make a few plays on offense and maybe get a few plays on defense and get this thing into the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what they did, and they held on and did it. Now, look, 7-5, the way this season started here and with 4 games left and looking at the schedule right now, you really got to like their chances maybe at making the playoffs here.
They're right there. They're certainly in it. And obviously still the 6th seed if the season ended today. Now probably competing more so with Tennessee, who's also 7-5 after the Colts and the Raiders both lost yesterday. Tennessee defeating the Colts. But yeah, it was kind of the same old story of a really slow start. And, obviously the first quarter you're not feeling too great about the direction that game was going. But I think overall, and we'll talk about it as we kind of get into the game a little bit later in the show, they just corrected all the issues that led to the loss against Cleveland 2 weeks ago, whether you're talking too many offensive turnovers, the defense giving up too many big plays, allowing Mayfield to make too many plays from outside the pocket. All of those things were largely fixed for Sunday, and I figured if you did that, that was going to get you the victory, which it did. But Dave, here, before you get into the game and the meat and potatoes of this thing, let's go look at the inactives and the injury report. No Juju, no James Conner. That wasn't a surprise. That was to be expected. Artie Burns was ruled out, and the rest were kind of healthy scratches. So inactive list, again, Juju, Conner are the big names here. We'll see what their availability is going to be for this weekend against Arizona.
Yeah, and I don't have a clue what's going to happen with either of those two. And obviously Artie's the lesser of the concern there. Look, the way Justin Lane's been seemingly playing on special teams and winning, as a gunner and all, they're probably not a reason to rush Artie back anytime soon right now. You obviously want to try to start getting Justin Lane accustomed to being in a uniform here towards the end of the season. That's starting to happen right now. So unless you really are concerned about more from a depth issue on the defensive side of the football, probably not a reason to address Artie Burns here, but we'll see what Mike Tomlin has to say about Conner and Juju after the game. I know Conner, got a little bit of work late last week and all, but it was still the limited variety. Still go back to what he said a couple of weeks ago about having that thing needing to be strengthened. And really, with the way the running game has kind of picked up the last couple of weeks, I don't know if I want to rush James Conner back right yet. Especially if time is going to be the best thing for this injury of his right now. I would obviously if he's ready, he's ready. But if there's any question of him not being ready and potentially re-injuring this thing the way he did against Cleveland a couple weeks ago, then he needs to stay sidelined. And we'll just have to see about Juju. And I guess the good thing, at least on the surface, we'll find out if anybody was forgotten or not. But on Tuesday when Mike Tomlin meets the media again, he didn't mention anything after the game, at least that I could hear, and I don't remember reading anything on the Twitter machine or anything about anybody suffering any type of injury in that game yesterday. And obviously there was no in-game reports from the team either, and that's usually a good sign. I'm not saying that something can't creep up here and we get a surprise on Tuesday, but on the surface, looks like we might have a fairly healthy team heading into the final quarter of the season.
Yeah, which is huge for any team to have healthy bodies down the stretch when guys are tired and depth is going to be tested. I just thought overall, looking at the big picture of this game, and I kind of mentioned at the top, but just this team was able to focus, put aside all the off-the-field stuff and storylines and all the things that make for a great and interesting and compelling pregame show and just focus on football and rally. And again, the defense stepping up, making plays, the offense getting it together, and I thought really, late second quarter on, you got more trust in the offense, and it kind of opened things up for that whole group. But overall, I just like the focus of this team. I think they arguably were the more well-focused team, and were able to make it to the finish line. And I think Cleveland has been a team that's a lot of all bark, no bite. They have a lot of talent on that team, but they haven't realized that yet. And when things get tough, they kind of tend to fall apart. And I think that's kind of been the storyline of their season.
Look, T-shirts didn't win or lose this game, but I'll tell you what. Obviously, we haven't talked since that story about Freddie Kitchens wearing the Pittsburgh started it T-shirt to the Fred Rogers movie of all things.
Talk about sacrilegious.
I mean, it's bad enough. Can't you go to some other movie and wear that? Look, it was his birthday on Friday. His girls evidently got him the shirt and wanted to wear it. Look, there becomes a time where you just got to be the grown up here and say, look, girls, I appreciate the gift here, but there's no way in hell I can wear that out of this house right now. And especially if I do, I got to keep the jacket zipped up tight. And look, we're going to go see this movie about a guy that's an icon in the city of Pittsburgh, and you really want, it was just a bad decision all the way around. And once again, that's not what lost the Browns the game, but it's just, one other distraction I don't think that team needed heading into, which was without a doubt the biggest game of the season for them. Because if they win that game, we're still talking about we're talking about the Cleveland Browns being in the picture this morning, along with a couple of these other teams here, and probably still the Steelers, even though it would be a huge hit to them. But the thing, I mean, I get the whole wearing the different T-shirts and all on the Steelers side of thing pregame and all. I would have just been much. I think I would have been a little bit more okay with all of them just being in unison, wearing like Free Pouncy or what have you, But once again, T-shirts didn't decide this. I'll get over. Telling people to get off my lawn and shaking my fist at the cloud here. But I think it goes back to Freddie Kitchens just making an awful decision there. And then he doubled down after the game either, and said, I'd do it again. Okay.
What a hill to die on, Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, I mean that's what's the phrase the kids use now? That's interesting flex or something. Is that
weird flex?
Okay. Weird flex. Okay,
flex.
Okay. I don't know.
You were close. I thought it was dumb. I mean, to me, it really didn't matter. I wasn't upset about that. It didn't keep me up at night. I knew that the motivation solely was to survive, advance, get a game closer to a wild card spot, and end the Browns season. If you need any extra motivation, then what are you doing? But it was a dumb thing and something that the Steelers players talked talked about after the game that they saw it, they were aware of it, and pretty much just chastised Kitchen for doing it and saying, Mike Tomlin would never do something like that, which you wouldn't. And so for Freddie Kitchens to do that, again, it just talks about the youth, the inexperience of that team, and when things get tight, the Steelers, they come together as a group, and for the Browns, kind of feels like things fall apart. So I don't know what's going on over there, but I just know their season's essentially over, and that is thanks to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Not that it matters, but especially if people listen to this podcast, really. But I mean, what would you do with Freddie Kitchens right now?
I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I've been super glued to the situation in Cleveland, but to me, I see a head coach that's in over his head, that has struggled with a lot of management situations, struggled with putting this roster together, and there were a lot of expectations this year. And granted, you have to deal with adversity. It's a new group. Things don't always gel as quickly as they might look on paper, but I don't see a head coach that's going to ever really take this team super far. So if it was me, I'd be making a change, but that's just me.
Let's see. Last year they went 7-8-1, right?
Yeah.
And they are 5-7 right now. So they need they need to win a couple of games here right now. Obviously, I mean you got Baltimore in there. Baltimore's at least going to probably have to play in through their Week 16 game. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, we'll see what happens after that. But one would think that Baltimore still's got to stay in this thing for at least the next 3 games.
They're still fighting for that first seed. They're tied with New England right now, right, at 10-2.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're technically the number 1 seed right now. So,
oh, are they?
Yeah, okay. Because obviously New England lost and all. And,
right.
And obviously that is really kind of more of a game in hand, I guess you could say, because they won,
right.
Won the head-to-head on top of it there. But, But, I mean, look, if Cleveland loses, you got 2 games against the Bengals, and you got Andy Dalton back. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, there is a potential of them maybe, especially now that they're kind of, they're not they're in this thing, but they're not in this thing. If they drop 2 of their next, 2 of their final 4 games, well, then they end the season 7-9. Right. And this is a team that was supposed to be, marginally better than what they had last year. And then you really have to wonder. I mean, you're going to have to really do some quick analysis and say, is Freddie Kitchens the guy that we want to really ride with here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me if they made a change. We'll see how the rest of the season turns out for Cleveland. For Pittsburgh, one note before we get into this game, the Steelers' Week 15 game against the Buffalo Bills, which was originally scheduled for 1 o'clock, has been flexed to Sunday Night Football. So that'll take place at 8:20 p.m. again against Buffalo, Week 15. The Steelers have not lost to Buffalo since 1999, so hopefully that streak continues 2 weeks from now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, that's we'll see what's coming up here fairly quick in regard to who the Bills are and aren't, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're coming off that super impressive win against Dallas. I think they are a legit team with a really good coach and a great defense.
Well, the thing is, we said, look, this was a team that entered that game having not beaten a team with a winning record, and at the time they played them, and then they beat a team that had not won a game against a team with a winning record. So even though I said before this game that I thought, okay, well, starting against Dallas, we'll find out who the Buffalo Bills are. I don't know if really, even after this game now, I know who they are. Look, it's going to be a tough, interesting. One would think that they're going to win at least 1 game in there, and hopefully it's not against the Steelers. It's probably going to, at worst, probably going to be the Jets there. So, but regardless, it does set up for a very interesting week. What would that be? Week 15 matchup between the Bills and the Steelers on a Sunday night.
It will. Some other housekeeping. Marquise Pouncey will come back from suspension. He has served his now 2-game suspension, so he'll be back for Sunday against Arizona. He got a game ball yesterday, which just is the sentiment about the leader and how well respected and liked that dude is for him to get a game ball sitting on the couch at home. Dave, where do you want to go here? You want to talk about offense first? You want to talk about defense first? I'll let you decide which direction you want to take.
Just 30,000 feet real quick. Okay. You open with trying to, with saying sort of, they look, I had kind of the same feeling early on as really as that last game went against them. You had a team that allowed loud movement of the football, especially on the ground. I mean, I was worried early about this team being able to stop the run.
Right.
And the Browns came out. They were able to run the football. They were able to throw a little bit on top of it, and march right down the field there. And then after the Steelers went 3 out. I mean, they only ran 5 offensive plays in the first quarter, right? I mean, it seemed forever that Hodges was over there on the sideline there, and then you turn around and it's 10-0, and you're kind of wondering, okay, which way is this going to go? And really, just almost like they did in that game a couple of weeks ago, the defense slowly started making adjustments along the way. Now they never really kind of, I don't guess, fixed the run more than anything. To Cleveland started running out of time. It just goes to be a testament of, man, if you can get a couple of possession lead there, you get a team out of the running game. I thought Cleveland dumped their running game a little bit too early. They only ran, I think, 6 times in total in the second half there. As good as they had ran it successfully as they ran it in the first half. I mean, I understand kind of, at maybe the halfway point of the fourth quarter, totally abandoned it. But, man, I think they only ran once in the fourth quarter, period.
Wow.
And I thought that was kind of a tactical decision, even though it was 2-possession game or whatnot in there. But I thought the biggest thing here was Baker Mayfield or their quarterbacks combined were 2 of 9 on deep passes down the field. I thought the Steelers did a great job of bracketing their top 2 guys, obviously Odell Beckham Jr. and Landry. They had their moments in the run game. The run blitzing early obviously didn't work probably like they thought it would, but it gained some traction there, I thought, a little bit in the second quarter. I thought Devin Bush was kind of maybe trying to do too much. I don't know, did maybe overrunning a gap or two early on. But the key thing, and I wrote this before the game as well too, I thought they had to keep Chubb to a combined under 100 combined yards, which is, he came into the game with 120 something average for combined yards. Not only did they keep him under 100 in this, a season low combined yards.
Wow.
For Chubb. So I thought that was huge.
What was the number? What was the number?
What was it? 70 something?
Okay.
Hold on a minute. I mean, he only had the one pass, right?
Right. That one for 21 though. But,
right.
Yeah.
And he had 58 yards rushing on 16 carries, and really they had a high percentage. I mean, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean they did have a high successful run rate percentage, him and Hunt combined there. So
79 total, I think, for 50.
Yeah, and that was the like I said, lowest output of the season for him. So you got that accomplished there. Another thing that stuck out to me too was I thought the Browns opened up 4 of 6 on third downs,
right,
and then 0 for 6 from about the 2-minute mark in the second quarter for the rest of the game. I mean that's absolutely huge if you're getting off on third down. So it kind of progressed that way in my head. It was kind of similar, I guess, to the way a couple of weeks ago, obviously without the turnovers on the Steelers side of football.
Right, yeah, the big picture stuff was that the defense created splash plays. They won the turnover battle as opposed to losing it. In the first matchup, they did a better job of keeping Mayfield within the pocket. You know what the longest gain the Browns had offensively yesterday was? 23 yards.
That was to the tight end, I think.
Right, on that one little busted coverage because Bush went on a crosser when he should have carried it. But that was it. And as opposed to the first game where I think they had 3 plays of 25+, 2 plays of 40+, both of those 40+ yard plays resulted in touchdowns. So you kept a lid on things a whole lot better this time than you did the time before, and that I think made a huge difference. And then overall, the players are giving Mike Tomlin so much credit for the adjustments he made at halftime, because the Browns were successful offensively in the first half, but the second half numbers, this Browns offense did nothing, Dave. 96 yards total, second half offense, 3.8 yards per play, only 7 first downs, 0 for 4 on third down, 3 points, 2 turnovers. He doesn't get much more dominant than that. And players were saying that Tomlin was literally drawing stuff up like a high school football coach to be able to defend the Browns and make adjustments. So kudos to Tomlin and Butler and the players for adjusting.
Yeah, and I think their first possession of the second half was a something like a 10-play possession. Then after that, they had like a whopping, I don't know, 16, 17 plays after that.
Mm-hmm.
So
And the signature drive was after the Hodges pick, where that defense creates a 3-and-out, knocks them out of field goal range, and it ends up in that punt thing that with the refs downing it at the 1, which was a bad call, but still the defense making that stand there was so critical and just sums up how good this defense has been. They were out there for a long drive. Offense has 1 play, throws a pick. Defense goes out there, gets another stop in 3 plays, and doesn't allow any points. I mean, that is just dominant defense.
yeah, I just put the lid on it right there, and then end it with a takeaway on top of it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, look, they had the one first half sack by Watt, and then 4 others, with most of them I think coming in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. At least 3 of them came in the fourth quarter, I think. I can't remember if the second one came in the third quarter or early in the fourth quarter. Watt and Dupree, I mean, we went into this thing thinking that those were some great matchups once again for them. Obviously, they didn't have Greg Robinson at left tackle. They had Justin McCray, who's really a guard.
Right.
Playing tackle, and then look, I mean, I think we both have respect for Chris Hubbard, but not against T.J. Watt, and
Right.
and Watt. I mean, it was right from the get go. T.J. Watt could have came out of that game with about 4 sacks.
I'm shocked he only had 1.
I am too, because he was all over. Pressure wise and Baker Mayfield right from the get go, and I think that kind of took its toll maybe on Baker a little bit in the game too, because not only was he kind of banged up with that hand and all, I think he was tired of getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
And a few times it felt to me that they let him out of the pocket too much again. But a few of those were kind of, I think, on some of those stunts. I know one was between Watt and Hargrave, kind of a twist back inside there, and that allowed Baker to I think that was the one that he connected with who was it on the sideline there?
Landry. Yeah, Jarvis Landry.
Landry on that one. It just felt like they'd let him out a few too many times, but on top of it though, they sure did hit him a lot more this time too. And yeah, I mean, it you go back through this tape again, and could have very easily been a 4-sack game for him. I think Dupree probably could have had 2 or 3 in this one as well too. So those kind of things. And look, there could probably have been another interception there on that one that he hit Mayfield on. It kind of fluttered and was still caught by the wide receiver on that particular play there. But yeah, this has just been, and they did it with a 4-man rush, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not a lot of blitzing this game. I did my charting last night. I have Watt down for 4 pressures, Bud for 6.
Wow.
Bud gets, what do you have, 1.5 sacks, I think, and Watt had 1 officially, but they were just roasting those tackles all game long. And I agree. I thought early they did a bad job of keeping Mayfield within the pocket, the plays like the Jarvis Landry completion, but I thought really late second quarter on, especially the second half, Mayfield didn't go anywhere. I mean, they were getting sacks even when he was scrambling. Think about Bud Dupree's forced fumble. Mayfield tries to escape the pocket. They contain him. Cam Sutton got a random sack in there. That was Mayfield trying to leave the pocket and couldn't. It collapsed. So I thought that was one of the adjustments they made, was that they did a much better job with their rush lane integrity and not letting Mayfield escape, and especially not letting him roll to his right and be able to get him on the ground. So that was, I think, one of the key differences in shutting down that Browns offense in the second half.
Oh, Bud Dupree's spin move inside. We got Bud Dupree out here doing spin moves to the inside and winning.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's a very tasty matchup against McCray, but he's been playing like that all year long. And then going after the football, he's got, 8.5 sacks this season. Watt has 32.5 sacks in his career. He's almost top 10 in Steelers history. He's tied for 11th in career sacks in Steelers history right now.
Once again, you go back, I remember doing his sack breakdown, I think right before that draft and all like that. And while he was, impressive with the hand usage and all, I still kind of viewed him as maybe a borderline into the first round, more of a top to mid second round type guy, just because of not seeing some of those wins that you'd like to see. I don't guess, but I mean, it hasn't taken him long at all. I mean, he's just highly conditioned. I mean, that he can win with the speed to power and rip, or speed to rip or speed to power. We see him sometimes occasionally work counter back to the inside. Very, very active hands. I mean, that's always been the case with him coming out of Wisconsin there, but he just wins so many ways, and the whole dip. I mean, he's got it, and if he stays healthy right now, geez, I mean, he's only in his third year. I mean, this is a guy that if he stays healthy, I mean, that's a double-digit guy for the next at least 3 or 4 years. You would think, and then I mean, you're gonna blow past Harrison, right?
All right. Well, he's on pace for 16 and a half sacks this season, which would break Harrison's mark, correct, of 16. I think he put up.
I'm just talking about overall with Harrison. Overall.
Yeah. Sure, for the franchise sack record, absolutely, he could do that someday. And they actually dropped Watt a decent amount Sunday. I don't have the exact numbers, but just on my notes, he's dropping probably more than he has any game in several weeks. So he still had a lot of pressure and made an impact. 32 and a half sacks in 3 seasons. That's 5th in Steelers history over a 3-year span. That number obviously is likely to climb the rest of the way. So he's just been an elite player, and I think very much worthy of being in that defensive player of the year type conversation.
I forgot to double check based on the charting, but it did catch my eye a couple times with them switching sides, him and Dupree.
Right.
Have they been doing that much per game? It seemed like they did it more Sunday than maybe they've done in the last 5 games.
They haven't done it at all this year. I don't think they did it at all last year, and they did it twice on Sunday. I think twice. I'll have to double check my notes, but at least once, and I believe twice. So this was new, and I like to see it though. I like to see these guys move around a little bit.
That's what stuck out and made me ask, because I thought, okay, I don't remember seeing that, and I don't remember seeing it in your charting either there. Yeah. And I saw it. I saw it at least twice. I mean, it was enough that I said, hey, I need to ask. I wrote it down and said, I got to ask about that, on that. So, I mean, even better now if you can get those guys moving around.
Right. And the advantage of that is just to look at a different tackle with a different skill set, force those tackles to prepare for both guys. So the right tackle can't just prepare for Watt, left tackle can't just prepare for Dupree because they have different skill sets and ways to win. So I think it just makes their life harder, makes your life a little bit easier to get a different look on a guy and maybe use a move on him that you used on the other guy, but now you're playing a left tackle, he hasn't seen it, and it's going to be more effective. So you're probably not going to see it a lot, but I like that they are doing it, and maybe they're getting to that point where they feel really comfortable about moving these guys and playing either spot.
I think one of the other things that jumps out at me, I mean, there is times where, and look, this team has manufactured sacks over the years, right? But the biggest thing that people should be noticing is it feels like they're playing with an extra guy on defense right now.
It does.
I mean, it really does, because I mean, you talk about rush and coverage, and how many times we said over the year, or at least this year, and maybe towards maybe the end of last year, man, they getting pressure with 4. And it's not like they're having that they're having to do that with blitzes a lot either. The fact that they're able to get that consistent down for down pressure with those 4 guys really makes it feel at times that they're playing with an extra guy in the back end.
I haven't done the numbers yet. I just have my charting on paper, but I'm just eyeballing this thing. It looks like the Steelers only sent 3 or 4 about 80%, 85% of the time on their rushes on Sunday. So, they're getting home with 4. And the other point I want to make with Dupree and Watt, I think it's really critical, and you mentioned it earlier, and that kind of jogged my memory, is there's their level of conditioning, because these guys are still playing about 90% of the time. Chick's getting a handful of snaps. Ola might get a play or 2, maybe 3 plays in a particular series. But these guys are essentially out there for 90%, and they don't take plays off. It's not like they sit down versus the run game and they're not doing much and they're just kind of loafing and turning it up against the pass. They are going 100% every single snap. And to do that this late in the year speaks to their work ethic and their conditioning and how they get their body ready, taking care of themselves during the week, because there is no evidence of slowdown for these guys, and it's making life really hard on these offensive tackles.
Yeah, I guess that's the only thing that you could kind of say is, man, it sure be nice to be able to get them off the field a little bit more this late in the season, like that. Maybe they can
handle it. When they're playing like this, it's hard to say, get in there and do what TJ Watt does.
I guess this has turned into we're doing the defense first.
I guess so.
But Alulu is another guy that I mean, he not only is he having, to me, his best season as a Steeler, this might be the best season. Of course, he's not playing as many snaps as he did in Jacksonville, but I mean, at least in his final 2 seasons at Jacksonville, I mean, he's constantly showing up a couple times a game, especially against the run. Getting those arms out there. And you want to talk about another guy that's highly conditioned. I mean, this guy never misses games. I haven't looked at what his snap total was yet from yesterday, but he's going to be he is a guy that I don't think you're going to maybe rush right out now and cut now. I mean, as long as he stays healthy, you got to at least keep him around and bring him to camp next year. It was one of those guys last night that, two out of 4 plays he flashed on tape for me.
That's a great point, Dave. I think he's been super underrated this year, having an awesome season. Did you see the stat I had on him? What was it, last week, I think, about the games he's played? Did you see that stat by chance? If not, I'm going to trivia question you.
All right, go ahead.
Ndamukong Suh, well, you probably know the answer to this one because of the way I'm setting this up, but Ndamukong Suh has the most games played of anyone from the 2010 draft class. Do you know who's second on that list?
Oh, well, I mean, look, I remember writing about him just being an Iron Man in general, right. Because I think the times, how many times has he been inactive? Only twice, right?
I think 3. I think he's missed 3 games in his career.
And I don't think any of those, were injury related.
I thought the one in Pittsburgh was an injury related. I think Jacksonville were healthy scratch. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought Jacksonville were healthy scratches. Pittsburgh, he did miss 1 game.
Now, it's been a while since I wrote that up. Looking back, so I need my memory jogged on that. But yeah, I mean, he's played a lot of games. Now, obviously, he's not having to play the amount of snaps that he used to play with Jacksonville. Let's see, he played 26 snaps Sunday.
Right, and the Browns only had, I think, 63 plays, so that's a decent percentage.
Yeah, 38% for Alulu. So, yeah, I mean, just one other guy, and we talk about. I mean, just imagine what this was, the way this defense was trending when they had Tuitt in there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you don't get the pass rush ability with Alulu, but against the run, I think he's held up pretty decent.
And the answer to that trivia question is Tyson Alulu for the second most games of the 2010 draft class, 153. Suh's at 154. So he's played more games, and there's a lot of good names in that 2010 draft class, whether you're talking Golden Tate or Geno Atkins or Antonio Brown. I mean, for that matter, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, there's a ton of good names in there, and only Suh's played more games than Alulu. So hats off to him. I think it's a great point because that's a really underrated guy. And not someone I'm going to look to cut this offseason, especially if you're going to lose Hargrave.
All right, run game, run defense. Noticeable run blitzes early.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the gap integrity?
I think you're right that Devin Bush might have overrun a play or two, but as you said, those run blitzes, because the whole mantra was slow down the run game, shut down Chubb, don't let him beat you. Tomlin had said that openly during the week, during his press conference. He was on the Mike Tomlin show with Bob Pompiani and said, I think Pomp asked, what's the number one priority to stopping the Browns offense? And Tomlin very matter-of-factly said Chubb. Got to stop Nick Chubb. So they did a lot of run blitzes early. They're risk reward. If they get home, you can get tackles for loss and stuff. If you miss and that back's able to find the hole and get in the second level, they're going to be able to get some decent gains, and that's what happened Sunday. But I thought overall the tackling was good. No big plays that killed you. I think, again, their longest run was 12 or 13 yards, so you're able to contain it. Secondary did a nice job tackling. Guys did a good job rallying to the football. And then, as you said, for whatever reason, the Browns just kind of abandoned the run game in the second half and kind of solved that problem for you. Now, granted, they only ran, I think, 25 plays in the second half, so they didn't really have a lot of plays to choose from, and some of that was late in the game when they're trying to be down 2 scores and drive and tie up the game. But it made life easy when they're choosing not to run the football. So overall, it wasn't the best, but it's a talented team. They got a couple good backs. Those 20 personnels with 2 backs with Hunt and Chubb, with 3 receivers on the field with Beckham and Landry. I mean, that's tough to defend, and I think overall the Steelers did a nice enough job. And again, second half, they really kind of shut things down.
Yeah, Edmonds had success on one of those run blitzes, I think, in the second quarter there. But once again, it goes to show if you can get a lead and take take a team out of what they let, 2-possession game. Because if that's just a 1-possession game, they probably stick with their run a little bit more in the second half there. But they didn't, and like I said, I think they ran 6 times in the second half and just 1 time in the fourth quarter. Obviously, they didn't have, like you said, the total play number, especially. You come out there in the second half and you start, what was it, 10-play drive they had in their first possession, and then really, what did I say, like 16 plays after that. In the final 3 or 4 possessions there. So not a lot of opportunity to do it. And, of course, a lot of that opportunity was squashed because the Steelers were so good on third downs. Kept them 0 for 6 after the, like I said, with 2:18 or whatever left in the first half through the rest of the game. So they really flipped the script on it. You could tell that they adjusted, and I thought they did, like I said at the top there, I thought they did a good job with the brackets there. They were wanting Baker to go to that tight end or the backs if he had the opportunity first.
Landry hurt the Steelers a little bit. What did he finish? 5 for 69, 5 for 70 yards. So he got a couple plays, but Odell Beckham Jr. was basically invisible for the entire game. And of these 2 matchups this year, Pittsburgh-Cleveland, I think Odell Beckham Jr. has only made 1 significant play against you, right? The 43-yarder in the first matchup. So you play 2 games against a quality receiver like Odell Beckham Jr., and he only hurt you for 1 play. That doesn't get any better than that.
Do you even remember Higgins' name being called?
No.
He's a kind of an underrated guy. I've always kind of thought, okay, good third receiver type. And of course, Hodge is one that burned them for an explosive play. They couldn't. What are those two combined together?
Nothing. I don't think anything. Now Higgins has been kind of glued to the bench for a majority of this year, to the frustration of Browns fans. He's gotten more playing time because they released Antonio Callaway, but none of those extra pieces really got involved. It was Landry was the only receiver that really did anything. Kareem Hunt got involved, had the touchdown, and that was the big contribution he had. But overall, you did just a great job of shutting down Odell Beckham Jr. and Landry. While he got a couple plays, didn't have any big plays that killed you.
And one of those completions to Carlson, the tight end, it really looked like Steven Nelson had a bigger piece. Was it Harris or Carlson on that one? Yeah, it had to be Carlson.
Carlson. Yeah.
On that one, I know Ty goes to the runner there, but it certainly seemed like Steven Nelson had the majority of that football when those two went to the ground there. So, look, you keep Mayfield under 200 yards, and just the one TD. If there's anything huge to complain about, I think maybe it was the one TD on kind of the angle route to somebody. That looked to be man, and somebody just missed it.
Yeah, I thought it was zone at first, but I think you're right. It was man. I think it just looked weird because somebody didn't pick up Hunt. You had Barron going for Chubb in the flat, which I'm sure he was on his assignment. Nobody had Hunt. But again, that 20 personnel is tough to play in the red zone with your checks and different adjustments you make. We'll have to go back and look at it. I don't know exactly who's at fault here, but I was frustrated they couldn't get him to the ground. A couple missed tackles, too.
That was the biggest thing. Okay, he got the catch at, the 12 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you had, I got a still up on my Twitter feed from the TV feed there. Surely one of those 4 guys is going to tackle him before he gets into the end zone, but no.
Right. Yeah.
And I really didn't like Minka. I thought was, I'll let those guys take care of it. Didn't have the best kind of and I know it's going to be, oh no, Dave hates Minka Fitzpatrick now, but it's the truth of the matter. kind of a little bit of a lollygagging on that play, and whoever was that, Sutton, right at. Who was it right at in the end zone there that really didn't attack coming forward on that as well? It was like all of them were waiting for the other one to make the tackle.
Yeah, they just kind of accepted that Hunt was going to take it in, so that wasn't great. But yeah, it was the one play that hurt you, and that was it. And again, things got cleaned up in the second half. The Browns had nothing. Again, 0-4 they were 0-6 their final third downs, 0-4 in the second half. And you create big plays. You get the Dupree forced fumble, which was massive, great hustle, ride of the football, and Joe Hayden interception. Great story for him to get that revenge against his own team, or old team, and a very difficult play too. He dropped 2 picks last week, 2 kind of easy ones, and he picks off this one. So a well-deserved bounce back moment for Joe Hayden.
Yeah, like probably could have been another one, like interception in there, like I had stated when Watt hit Baker on one of those there, that ball just fluttered right into the arms of his own receiver there. And what'd you think about Baker after leaving with that thumb, hand, whatever injury, and then coming back? He still had some pretty damn good zip on it.
Yeah, if you didn't know he was hurt, you wouldn't have known it. He looked fine to me, but the Steelers pass rush got home, and the Browns had to play from behind. They became one dimensional, not relying on the run game, and if you do that against a really good Steelers defense, it's going to be tough to put up yards and points.
Yeah, I think, look, I said it a couple times now, the brackets that they had at certain points, especially I think when Sutton was on the field for some of his, they didn't fall for any of those kind of double moves. And really, I think the two deep passes that Baker Mayfield completed that flew more than 16 yards, I think both those were in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So up until then, they were pitching a shutout as far as the deep pass completion goes. We all know how important explosive plays are in games, and overall they did a good job on limiting the explosive plays. And obviously, like you said, the double explosives. Those what can really kill you, because a lot of times, that double explosive or triple explosive is going to end up at like inside your 5 or in your own end zone there. So I mean, you kept them to under 30. I mean, you kept them to 13, which is under the 16, 17 that Butler wants. And when you do that, you're gonna have I don't care what your offense is, you're gonna have a chance to win a game.
Whole defense played well. Really, nobody had a bad performance, I didn't think, yesterday, and I thought just collectively the group tackled well. Terrell Edmonds even making some good open field tackles, but there weren't a lot of misses. I'll be interested to see what the number is specifically for our missed tackles report from Josh Carney. Maybe some stuff in the run game, but again, nothing big. And overall, they got guys on the ground, didn't allow a ton of yak, and that's what helps keep those numbers down.
Yeah, absolutely. Good overall performance by him.
Anything else from the defense you want to add? Do you want to flip to the offense, Dave?
No, I mean, I think, defense, I don't know how many people, you think I'm gaining some fans on the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat?
Slowly but surely.
And the relevancy of it. I mean, that stat speaks volumes, man. I mean, under 4 for this game, and then now they're right at, technically they're at like 4.9 something for the season, but obviously you round up there, so it's a 5.0. They have the fourth lowest adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat in the league. And boy, if you were to subtract, if you would do that just with Minkah, since Minkah arrived, it's obviously much lower, because they obviously did not have a good first couple of games there against New England and Seattle. I mean, this is a defense that, and I don't want to get too far out there still, because there's 4 games left, but this is a defense that could do some damage, I think, if it got in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's one of the I consider it an elite defense, at least by today's standards. I don't know if we want to get bogged down in the semantics of it, but I think it is an elite top tier defense.
If they can stop the run better, most definitely. I mean, they still getting, especially like some of that stretch outside zone. You see them. I'd like to see them tighten that run defense up a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the little weaker part of the two, pass defense versus run defense, which is really crazy to say, because when was the last time we said that statement? But I think some of the run blitzes yesterday had a lot to do with Chubb being able to create some lanes and at the second level. And it's by no means has it been bad. And I know you agree with it.
Right.
All right, Dave, let's look to the offense now. And I thought Duck Hodges just played winning football. And Tomlin joked about it after the game, saying he didn't kill us, but he did more than that. He helped this team. And I thought I really thought that based off the free play, that was a 31-yard completion to James Washington, and then that 2-minute drill really kind of proved it to the coaching staff that, hey, let's open this thing up. Hodges, he's settling in, he's making plays, he can move the offense down the field, and that's really what kind of got things going.
I don't think they weren't opened up ahead of that. Because look, his second pass attempt was a deep pass attempt in the game. I think that kind of gets lost in that in this here, and I think people kind of got the idea that it wasn't open up, because they ran five damn plays in the first quarter.
Right.
And then you get the the short completion to Samuels that moves the chains there. And then unfortunately, look, I mean, faults. Make no mistake about it. Fault starts and what they didn't want him to do is to try to do too much on second downs. Because there were a lot of second and longs, I think, in this game. I mean, how many false starts do they have in this game? 6?
Way too many pre-snap penalties.
I mean, they weren't wanting him to try to probably get all that chunks back. And look, there's one thing that's a pet peeve for me. It's more from an analytics nerd standpoint. It's just running on second and more than 7.
Right, which they did on both of their first 2 drives, which was frustrating. That's why I think it was conservative.
And I think that's maybe what people will try to look at. But still, you had your first 5 plays was what, a 3-2 balance, and how much is that going to be scripted anyway?
Well, I mean, you did run on the first 2 plays. You ran on 2nd and 7. You put yourself in 3rd and 6. You get sacked the second drive. Now, granted, there was a false start there with Deontay Johnson, but you do 1st and 10 run, 2nd and 13 after the false start. You run 3rd and 8. Incomplete punt. Then your next drive, you open up with 2 screens, and you finally threw it on 3rd down. That was the free play, actually, to James Washington. So I thought they scripted it pretty conservative early, and then once Hodges hit Washington on that free play, it kind of opened up the offense a little bit more going forward.
And I'm not so sure that the first offensive play of the game wasn't supposed to maybe be a pass, and he alerted to the run.
See, did you see something? I tried to look at that play. It just looked like a standard run play to me. Is there something you saw or something that someone said that kind of tipped you off?
I thought he just counted the box and went.
Okay, because I didn't see the receivers. They didn't run routes. They were blocking on that play, right?
Well, he alerted, so I don't know.
Okay, but it felt conservative to start just based off of those things. Even when they did throw the football, there were a lot of screens underneath, and then once Hodges got the free play, and then they got the ball back on that next drive, and it was a 2-minute drill. They get the ball back with $1:48 left. Of course, you're going to throw the football. Of course, you're going to open things up. And I thought that just kind of helped Hodges A, settle in, and then B, just kind of prove to the coaches of, hey, let's be a little more aggressive here. We got to put up points where we're down. Let's go ahead and try to push this ball downfield, and they did. Which kudos to the offense and kudos to the coaching staff, I think, for making that adjustment.
And he put that ball right in the bucket to James Washington on the free play as well too. And James did a great job getting that one. I thought at first that foot was going to be out of bounds there, but that 31 yard gain was a good catalyst there.
Right.
I mean, because now you're right there at midfield, and you better come away with points there. You got an explosive play in this on top of it, and. Yeah, I mean, look, an okay call on the Johnson end around, and I thought the wide receiver, who was the wide receiver blocking on that side? Tevin Jones, sure. I think, afforded Johnson like an extra 6 yards, I think, maybe, if that's the one that I'm thinking about on that play. So one thing that really stuck out to me in the game was the blocking of the wide receivers throughout the game here.
Yeah, no, I think the last 2 weeks, that's a great point. James Washington, Tevin Jones, even Deontay Johnson, which will get in there and try. Those guys are all being aggressive, and they are. If you look at some of these big, 15-plus yard runs this team has had, receivers and running backs, I mean, their downfield blocking is a huge part of that. So I wholeheartedly agree.
Once again, I was wanting to see them lean on the run heavy,
sure.
Early, and I don't know what I don't get this whole conservative, narrative.
No, I just thought the first 2. I thought the scripted plays were conservative, and then once they kind of got away from that and you got in the flow of the game, it opened things up. That's how I felt the first 2. Really, the first 3 drives had gone, the start of the 3rd drive, and things kind of opened up. And again, aided by being in a 2-minute drill where you got to throw the football.
Once again, false starts didn't help and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised we didn't see maybe a little bit more of we saw more Jalen Samuels than I thought we would see, and not as much Gareth White as I thought we would see.
Yeah, you saw a lot of Samuels early. He got the start, but then Benny Snell kind of settled in, and when it came down to who's going to get the ball late, it was Benny Snell, and he did a great job again with pushing the pile forward, converting, moving the sticks, and again, I think the details for him, his ball security has been excellent. He's always putting 2 hands on the football when he's about to get contacted, get taken to the ground. His conditioning, the level of conditioning is kind of rare for a rookie, especially one coming off knee surgery a couple weeks ago, missing 3 games. So I've been really, really impressed by Benny Snell the last 2 weeks. I know the coaching staff feels the same way.
Kareth White, did he play another snap after putting that ball on the ground on the sideline?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see.
He played like 9 snaps total, and I know a lot of those came in the first 3 drives there, I thought.
He didn't have a touch after that fumble, so I don't know if he played a snap, but if he did, it wasn't more than 1 or 2.
You kind of held your breath on that one.
Yeah, at least he recovered it. But yeah, the division of labor, though, is made sense. I thought actually, and I'll give credit to Jalen Samuels because I've been really critical of him this season. I thought that was his best game yesterday, his best game since the Week 15 one against the Patriots last year. I thought he ran really well. He ran tougher with more power and caught the ball well and didn't make any big mistakes. So I thought he had a really nice day yesterday.
Most noticeable was with him running out of Wildcat, I thought. I mean,
he's natural at it, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he did do that. Not a ton, but I mean, did it more than most during his career at North Carolina State there. But he also had a good pass pro on one of those as well too, over to the left. I thought.
Yeah, his pass pro has been a weak point for him. But I thought yesterday was just a really good game for him. So I know I've been really critical of him and his performance this year. I thought yesterday was his best game of the season by far.
This run success rate overall, Benny Snell had over a 50% run success rate as a team. I believe they're right at around 50% successful run rate. That's something that we really haven't seen. First and 10 success was there this time as well too. Once again, you getting 4 yards or more on first down. I don't see the issue there that many seem to have there. I thought Tevin Jones' combative catch early on in that game. Obviously, James Washington, huge catches in that game. A lot of that stems from having balls that are catchable balls too. Both of them down the free play down the left sideline, the 31-yarder was dropped right in the bucket, and then the other one down the other sideline. For that one was a throw on out more to the outside there. The one on the touchdown there, I held my breath on that one. Even though I can't wait to see the all 22, the end zone view on that. I thought he did a good job of holding the middle of the field safety on that one, and it was more of a kind of a I guess inside. It's sort of a slot fade kind of, but he kind of bended that to the inside and then back out to the corner. I was worried he put that a little bit too much air on that to give that safety time to get over there, but they didn't get there, and James Washington made an incredible catch, even with being interfered there. That's the kid that you drafted right there, or at least that you thought that you drafted.
Right. He's been the best offensive player on this team for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I would say, and that touchdown catch was a beauty. Maybe the best touchdown catch he'll ever have. I mean, the dude's getting his shoulder pulled backwards. He's falling to the ground, getting interfered with. His other safeties coming over the top trying to smack him. Great concentration, great ball control, and he's got those lobster crackers you talk about, Dave, and he showed him on that play. So that was just a phenomenal performance by James Washington.
Was that the best catch this season?
By Washington or any Steeler?
No, by any Steeler.
Oh, I'd have to go back and look at some, but nothing's coming to mind right now, so it'd be right up there for sure.
I mean, I'm trying to rack my brain trying to remember if there's anything that good so far this season. But I mean, that was definitely a huge play there for sure.
Yeah, and this game just kind of reminded me of Miami, where Miami got up an early lead, and then Pittsburgh comes back late at the half to be able to kind of have momentum going into halftime, and so it was 10-0. With how much time left? 5 minutes left in the second half. I mean, the Steelers were driving, but let me try to get. Yeah, it was 10-0 with 3:05 left. That set up the Chris Boswell 39-yard field goal to make it 10-3 with 3 minutes left. The Steelers get a 3-and-out, which was huge. Get the ball back with $1:48 left, come down and tie it up. So you go from being down 10-0 with 3.5 minutes left, let's say, and then by halftime you've tied things up. So I mean that was just one of those big turnarounds late in the half, like Miami, where it kind of made you feel good going into halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that you got get the ball first in that second half as well too, and for as slow of start as people seem to think that they had, you had your first two possessions punt, then you went You scored in your next 4 possessions. When's the last time we saw the Steelers offense score in 4 straight possessions there?
I'm going to have to look that one up. That's a really, really good question, but you're right. That's a great point. You get balls at halftime, you put together a really long 5-minute drive. You end up with a Benny Snell touchdown, the first of his career. You go up 17-10. So, yeah, you've come back with 17 unanswered basically before Cleveland even knows what's happening. Now, I still wish this team would do a better job scripting, and I think that's a big issue is they're just so terrible to start games. And, again, they only have 3 points on the opening possession this year, and that was basically just a gimme based off the 49ers turning the football over in week 3. You know what's funny? This opposing defenses have more points on the Steelers' opening possession 7 than the Steelers' offense has points on opening possession 3, and that was off the Rams, game with the high snap by penalty. That was returned for a touchdown. So I want to see things scripted a little bit better early because this offense has to do something in their first 2 series.
Well, you look, I don't. They're just not going to come out, not yet, and just go deep on this thing.
No, I'm not saying I don't care how you do it. I mean, you can run the football, but the opening possession production is non-existent. I don't care how you do it. I mean, you can run the football, that's fine, but you got to find a way to start at least get first downs on this opening possession. They can't even do that. They go 3 and out more often than not.
I mean, if you come out and the longer that you keep him in there at quarterback, I mean, maybe this next game, I don't know, maybe the one after it. He's probably going to come out and take one of those 40-yard shots down the field first snap of the game. Mm-hmm. It's coming. You just don't know when. But once again, if you're not completing that, I mean, this isn't Ben Roethlisberger you're dealing with back there. You know.
I'm not saying you have to throw it deep. I'm just saying the opening possession production has been abysmal, right? I think we all agree on that.
Well, not putting the ball in the end zone. I mean, or not getting points, period.
Or not even getting first downs or yards. Right. I mean, I'm not sure what exactly those numbers are, but they're among the worst in football. I mean, they go 3 and out probably more than any other team on the opening drive. So I'm not saying you have to throw it deep. I'm not saying you have to even throw it at all. But all I care about is the production, and they aren't getting any of that. And that does kind of put them behind the 8 ball more games than not, which is a difficult spot to begin.
I thought we were going to make it through the game without a turnover there, but 19 consecutive games now. They've given the football away at least once. Obviously the interception. It looked like I don't know what you said to Deontay, got him off of his game or all like that. You shouldn't criticize a player unless you played professional football, Alex. You've never returned a punt before in the NFL, so we can't have you criticizing a player because of that. But anyway, he didn't have the best of game.
No, it was a tough game for him. Now, I mean, for the punt stuff, I actually thought he fielded the punts really cleanly. I mean, they were kind of easy. They were open air punts. There was no one around them, but I thought he did a nice job with that aspect of it, which was the only part of his game I was critical of this week. But yeah, he had the one drop, which I think was kind of tipped, but still got to be caught. Even the third down catch he had, which was big to move the sticks in the fourth quarter, you go out of bounds. You can't do that. He had the penalty, the personal foul, 15 yards after the play kind of stuff. His worst game probably of his career so far, but he's still a talented player. I think he'll bounce back in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was his worst game so far of his career. He looked unsettled throughout this whole game.
Mm-hmm. And on the interception, you put that on Deontay more than Duck.
It looked like he just stopped running a route.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like he looked like he just quit on it. Now I don't know how the narrative would have changed. I mean, he beat some 2 guys earlier in the game, and had Randy Fichtner thrown that ball deeper, it would have been a touchdown. But obviously, I'm joking there. But if Duck puts that one out there a little bit further, that's 6. So that if you connect on that, are you saying? Oh, well, no, they're not as conservative as what I thought they would have been,
Which play? The one on the left sideline of Deontay?
The one down right around the hashes. The
okay.
Deep one. When was that?
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out when that one was. I know it wasn't on the first 2 possessions.
No, it was in the third possession, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay, I'm trying to look up what exactly play that was to check it. I just thought the scripted plays, again, those first 2 possessions was the conservative part, and then once Hodges hit that free play to James Washington, I think it kind of made the coaches go, okay, hey, we can push the ball downfield. We got to take the training wheels off with Duck a little bit. We're down. We got to get some points. I'm trying to see when that play was. I don't think that was on the third.
7:34 second quarter. The third offensive. Wait a minute. No, not 7:34. That was a short one.
Right, it's a short middle. I think it was a screen.
When was it here?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I think 119 in the second.
119 second.
Right, so that was a 2-minute drive.
With red wine in there.
Right. So yeah, that was a close play. And again, that was a 2-minute drill where you kind of had to throw it, and I think the coaches had no choice but to throw it. But I think again, the confidence of leading that drive, you had the great catch by Washington, the touchdown that kind of gave that coaching staff confidence to let's open things up a little bit more going forward. So I think that play, that series, and then the 31-yarder on the previous possession to James Washington were kind of the catalyst to letting Hodges settle in and make some plays and kind of be a more impactful player than he was very early in the game.
I think the play that kind of gets lost in that drive as well too was that 2nd and 4 play, the short right to Deion Kane, because it looks like he's going to get stopped short of the chains, and you get the chains moved on that one, and that allows you get in that spot where they like to take those shots, and that's right. in between the 40s there.
Mm-hmm. And then you made the point earlier about that catch by Tevin Jones, which was fantastic because he got hit before even catching that football.
Yeah, that was pass interference on that. That should have been called pass interference regardless. I mean, he got hit in the back before that ball arrived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the great job by him. He's impressed me. I mean, I know it's not been a high volume of plays, but I've been really impressed by the job Tevin Jones has done this year.
Well, too, he's like I say, he stuck out as a blocker too. So that's all of them stuck out to me as blockers. In this game, we all know the old tradition of, you're going to play wide receiver for the Steelers, you got to be able to block. And I thought all of them did in this game, and that was a contested catch by him there. And then, right after that, I mean, technically when they get in that, I mean, in fact, I even had said, get to that 40-yard mark or whatnot and go deep. Well, they waited till they got to like the Cleveland 30 before going deep to James Washington on that touchdown there. But that seems to be where Randy likes to kind of turn him loose at, is in between the 40s.
Yeah, I think that's kind of standard across the league. But yeah, I just like that they open things up. And then Hodges, I mean, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but his placement and his timing and his rhythm is pretty good, especially for a guy in the position he's in.
Well, once again, I held my breath on that one to Washington in the end zone.
Yeah, but that was just a phenomenal play by him. I mean, he's playing some great football right now, and he's everything. This is why they drafted James Washington as high as they did.
And I want to look and see how long he was able to, where that safety was exactly, in the middle of the field, and how long he held him. And he'll learn to hold him a little bit longer, move forward. I just was worried that one got hung up a little bit too long.
Right. Isn't it crazy that, we all talked about the Mason-James connection, and it's Doc and James, that are having this spark in this chemistry?
Yeah, look, I mean, who would have thought, you got a couple practice squad wide receivers there right now as well, too. I mean, they're doing a lot with a little.
Right. Yeah, that's the perfect phrase. They're doing a lot with a little right now, and again, it just comes down to talent. If you're a talented player, you'll be able to find chemistry and be able to make things work, regardless of what the backstory is. But I mean, it seems like Duck and James have a pretty close relationship. They went duck hunting or turkey hunting on last Tuesday, and they said they're going to do it again this Tuesday to keep the streak going. Don't want to jinx it, so they're building a pretty good relationship too.
Yeah, hard not to be impressed with what the catches that Washington's made the last 4 or 5 games. I mean, he's really turned it on with the production, and they needed it too, because obviously Juju's missed a couple of games on top of it, and you got a couple of new bodies in there, and in Kane, and obviously Tevin Jones getting more comfortable in there as well. So. It just goes back to, I think they are doing a lot with a little here.
I mean, here's the stat I'll give you for Washington. He is responsible for 52% of the Steelers' total passing yards the last 2 weeks. 209 of 402. That went 4 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown yesterday. Only the second 100-yard performance by a Steelers receiver all year long. Juju was the other against the Dolphins. So Washington is literally responsible for more than half the Steelers' passing yards in the last 2 weeks, which, as you said, is really crucial with all the injuries they're dealing with.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, well, is he going to get now? Now that he's done this last couple of games, going to get a little bit more respect now, maybe. And is this going to when and if Juju gets back here in the next game or two, maybe that'll get Juju a little bit more involved in this thing now.
That's a good point. Yeah, at some point, defenses have to say is, okay, we can't cover this guy one-on-one, or we got to put a better matchup. We got to find ways to slow him down if they're going to keep hitting big plays. So that's a really good point. I'm interested to see how defenses adjust, and they're going to play Cardinals defense that got lit up pretty bad by the Rams yesterday. So I think Washington could have another big game on Sunday.
And look, you see that cover one out there, and if you see that corner up, those corners up like that, you got to go. You got to go for it, and they did. I thought a lot of it. Making sure you see the right coverage out there plays a big role in whether or not you're going to go down the field on top of it there. So and we did, even though Cleveland seemingly played a lot more zone this time around than they did, man, there's still going to be those instances where you're going to get that single high, and maybe that'll change a few defenses in the way they maybe we'll see a little bit more cover 2 or cover 3, moving forward here, and if so, maybe that's going to open up the running game a little bit.
Yeah. If teams start playing two-man, they're trying to go too high with man underneath to try to take away some of these receiving threats. That opens up the run game. You're absolutely right. So we'll see, but it's trending in the right direction. Washington certainly in a good place right now in his career, and hopefully that arrow keeps pointing up. For the offensive line, I want to give them some love. I thought the whole O-line did a great job. Only one sack allowed. I put that sack on Hodges, not Matt Filer. I mean, they averaged a decent number in the run game. They ran for a $124. They've run for, I think, 280 something the last 2 weeks total. O-line's playing really well right now.
Yeah, look, it's a lot different without Myles Garrett in there.
Fair point. But even on the interior, I mean, DeCastro, I know it's David DeCastro, but he was just moving guys yesterday.
Yeah, I thought DeCastro played another good game. I thought Foster did a couple of good things of trapping some guys inside. I thought Al played okay. All of them really overall. I mean, BJ, I saw him turn a guy or two out. Now, look, make no mistake about it. On top of it was Cleveland got banged up early on that defensive line. I mean, you had Chad Thomas dinged. You had Vernon. Vernon probably had no business playing in that game yesterday. I think he was limited all weekend. The week is questionable. They put him in. It didn't take him too long to get kind of dinged up there. Chad Thomas got dinged up. Sheldon Richardson ran into the heater on the sideline, face first into that, and was banged up as well too. You kind of went into this kind of thinking that they would be able to run or should be able to run on them. Of course, went into that game the last time against them thinking the same thing as well. But that's another reason why I was glad to see them run early and often and kind of stick to it, because I thought the biggest thing that my fear was at 10-0 was that you was going to get too far away from that running game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't. And again, I think getting that second half, late second quarter, I should say, possessions of the field goal, then the 3-and-out, then the touchdown to tie it up at 10, really kind of obviously made it a tie game going into halftime and kind of let you stay within your game plan and not abandon the run game, which they didn't. And again, Benny Snell ran well, Jalen Samuels ran well, Gareth White got a couple snaps. I thought the whole run game worked really effectively yesterday.
Yeah, run success rates were there once again. First and 10 success rates were there again. They only had there was no third and no really short yards. What they have, 1 3rd and 3, and the rest of their third downs were longer than 3 yards, I think.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure, but that sounds right.
So there wasn't really any short yardage to kind of look at there. But
what was Pittsburgh on third down yesterday, just in total?
What was it, like four of
9?
I'm trying to remember.
Let me pull up the numbers. I know the Cleveland was 0 for 6 in the second half, or 0 for 6 after starting 4 for 6. Pittsburgh was 4 for 10. So,
Yeah, it could be better there.
Yep. So still things 1 or 2 in the red zone. For Pittsburgh, that's good because they've been among football's worst in the red zone. Red zone defense was good. 1 of 3 Cleveland was down there, but still some things to work on. Sure, but some improvement, and you feel a little more confident, a little more comfortable with Duck under center.
And yeah, I know the whole 20-point thing. This team's got to score more points, and yeah, it's going to get to a point. Time and time again, I've said when it comes to defenses and playoffs, or vice versa, good offenses with mediocre. If you get into the playoffs, at some point you're going to need one or the other to the deficient of the two to carry a game for you. We also said in last week, I forget if it was Wednesday or Friday, that we need to throw out the adjusted net yards per passing attempt and reset that number with Hodges in there, and then now let's see if this thing can trend it at 6.2 or better, for the next few games here. And it was well over 7. So I mean, there's no issues there, for resetting that number there. Now, obviously, if you look at the totality of the season, which I think is a wrong thing to do at this case when you're switching like this, it's like 5.2. At least it's higher than at least you got a plus differential over your defensive number there. But I really think these next few games, I think it's proper to reset that number there. And they had the 7-point whatever number there on offense against the Browns. What was the other thing there? He had a targeted air yard distance of, what did I write? 11 something, I think, but a completed distance of like 7 point something. Normally you get upset if you got like a 3 point something gap in there, but because of the amount of limited attempts that he had, and because the number is well over 7 there with the completed air yards, that's fine.
And from the eye test, I mean, how did you think Hodges did? I thought it was good overall. I mean, that's a very just simplistic way to look at it, but I just was impressed by his demeanor and his play-to-play consistency.
Oh yeah, I mean, what he did, other than that goofy thing at the end that he tried to do, and then I thought one other time, what was it? Did he try to throw one away that maybe I don't remember?
Well, there was the 3rd and goal design run that he had where he tried to throw with his left hand and fumbled it.
That one, hold your breath there.
Right. I thought it was a bad play call, but Hodges didn't make a bad situation any better. He made things actually worse in that moment.
Yeah, if you want to complain anything about the play calls in that game, to me, it was just 2 quarterback runs towards the end there.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mind the draw, but I minded running an option play immediately after that when all eyes are going to be on the quarterback without any other option. That just seemed limited and kind of just silly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if I want to hear any criticism about the play calling in that game, it was those calls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you think of the decision to throw on that final 3rd down play, the one that Hodges ultimately threw away? Would you have run it there and churn clock, or would you have done the Steelers' approach of trying to go for the game ender right there?
No, because I could hear it now. Oh, they're too damn conservative.
Yeah.
But you got to make a smart decision if it ain't there.
Right.
You got to know there's times where you got to say, okay, I got to just keep the clock moving.
Right.
There comes a time where sacks are okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I hear you. And again, I think in that situation, roll clock, trust your defense. Cleveland get the ball back with a minute left, no timeouts, having to go about 80 yards, needing a touchdown. That situation, my focus was on just rolling clock and letting the defense go out there with all the advantages they would have had.
Yeah, God forbid they would have run and come up short. Yeah. The conservative people would be really upset then. But I mean, you just got to be smarter with the football. And look, I mean, didn't Deontay Johnson kind of late in that game go out of bounds with one too?
Yeah, that was on the 3rd down catch he had, the 3rd and 5, which was a big conversion. It was a great scheme, and credit to Feetner for that particular play call. I think actually they almost ran the same play call on that 3rd down that Hodges threw away. I think Johnson was open, and Hodges wanted him late, and Johnson never got his head around. I'll have to go back and check. But yeah, Johnson caught the ball and then got out of bounds. So you lose about 30 seconds there. There was a penalty, which I think stopped the clock. The Hodges throw away. You really probably could have just rolled out the whole rest of the clock on that drive, but because of those decisions, you gave Cleveland the ball back with about just under 2 minutes left, which wasn't ideal. It got to stop, but could have had that one basically over by the end of that drive.
Let's see. 8 different people caught passes in the game. I like the little kind of the rollout to who was it? Vendette on the right
Mm-hmm.
side. I thought we were going to get one to the other side. Kind of that would have been the time to run that play instead of the design run. I thought maybe
Mm-hmm.
to run the same play that they ran against the Ravens earlier in the season. Kind of that boot the other way there and hit McDonald on that one. But I mean, obviously they didn't. Yeah, I mean, he passed the eye test. Yeah.
Yeah, and for McDonald, I mean, obviously a very quiet game again, but he had that crucial conversion late too, right? Bowling
Yeah,
over some guys.
broke. 3 yards after the catch. Another
Right.
thing here, while some Benny Snell, I haven't seen the total numbers. I haven't collected them yet. But yards after contact, he seemed to have quite a bit of that. He seemed to be going forward quite a bit when he falls.
Mm-hmm. How many did they give him special team snaps? I want to look. I don't think they did Sunday for Benny Snell. No special team snap after playing 21 last week against the Bengals, which I think is a smart decision.
Right.
To
Remember
get
me
that.
saying I could stand if he's going to be your ball
Right.
carrier. I could see him go off special teams for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. So I know I think it was Trey Edmonds and Jalen Samuels getting work on the punt team. I'll have to go back and look at all where they replaced Snell at, but that's a smart decision.
What else there? Kane broke a tackle that we talked about on the second down, got the first down.
I mean, just jump to special teams in general. Again, just a solid, steady performance. Not a ton of splash, but good ball security. Boz, Barry doing their thing. Coverage unit's been excellent the last couple weeks. And hey, they got a kick return out to the getting near the 40-yard line. Let's throw a party.
Yeah, I had to see if that was allowed.
I didn't know it was. Yeah, someone told Danny Smith you can.
The only thing that one time they needed Barry to bury one deep, it goes into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
That was frustrating. What else was frustrating there? Was there any special teams penalties?
I don't think so. I'll have to go back and check, but I think they were pretty clean. They've actually been really good at special teams penalties overall compared to the rest of the league. Much better than last year, at least. And I think I'm not looking at that long 34-yard return by Kareth White, but I think Dangerfield had a really key block on that play. So kudos to him. And Cam Kelly had 2 tackles on special teams on the coverage unit. So nice job for Cam Kelly.
Yeah. So they didn't kill him.
All right, Dave. Any other thoughts on this game? Again, you go to 7-5. You're in good position. You can get your revenge. You get Pouncey back. Hopefully, you get Juju or James Conner, at least one of them back for Arizona. Still a long ways to go, but you're feeling good about how things look right now.
Boy, the way that defense is playing right now, you continue to get that play and hold. Like I said, you hold guys down like that. You're going to be in a lot of games.
Yeah, and I haven't looked really at them at all. I've only watched maybe 1 or 2 highlights from the game yesterday. But Arizona put up 7 points and got blown out by the Rams, who of course the Steelers beat the Rams earlier this year. So we'd have to go out west. Arizona has its own challenges. It's got a lot of unique personnel groupings with Cliff Kingsbury out there. But on paper, another very winnable matchup for the Steelers defense on Sunday.
And obviously, Mike Tomlin, in so many words, I think said. Hodges is going to start. I mean, he'll obviously name him the starter on Tuesday there, as he should. We'll see about look, if you can get Juju back, I think that'll help things out a little bit there. Even when Connor comes back, I think you still got to maybe think about using Snell in certain situations, especially in short yardage situations. I think is definitely a role for Benny Snell there, and. Pouncey, I'm sure we'll have. I don't know. I think they could. I don't know if there's a certain amount of games that a guy's got to be off before you get a roster. It's not a big deal if they don't get a 24, 48 hour roster exemption. But I'd do it just to damn do it. But you're looking back at the Browns and Ogunjobi. Of course, he only missed 1 game. He was on a transaction sheet last Monday. And there was no exemption, and he just went back. So I assume that'll be the same thing with Pouncey later on today, and corresponding move. I would think tomorrow's probably one would think it'd be Patrick Morris getting waived, but
Right.
I mean, if you got enough running backs there, I don't know. Do you wait? Edmonds is playing on special teams and all. It feels like Patrick Morris will be the guy.
Yeah, could almost guarantee you Patrick Morris will go back to the practice squad, which is fine. He got dressed, didn't play. That was my goal, for Morris to dress and not have to play. Finney did a really nice job filling in.
All right, 7-5.
7-5. All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails to close out the show.
All right, let's go to the email box here. This one from Jay Smith, Victory Monday. I was really impressed with Hodges once they took the handcuffs off. I don't get this taking the handcuffs off, but okay. I'm hoping next week we don't come out so conservative early on and just let him play. Great observation by Alex on Hodges during training camp. My only complaint was Hodges throwing the ball away under the 2-minute mark instead of taking the sack. Got to coach him up on that big time on to Arizona.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Hodges was unique. I mean, even just looking at his resume back at, when they go into rookie minicamp, and I always like to just highlight the tryout players because the Steelers have a fairly rich history of at least guys that make the 90-man roster coming out of it as tryout guys. So even Hodges' resume as being FCS, Walter Payton Award winner, and breaking Steve McNair's record, and just kind of the background he had was interesting. And you go into camp and you watch him, and you find out pretty quickly that this guy looked more than your typical number 4, quote unquote, camp arm. And then you get in the games, he plays well, and obviously what he's doing now, it's been a remarkable story. So Hodges one of those finds, and hey, the Steelers cut him a couple times, but he's back in Pittsburgh now, and thank goodness for that.
You do what you need to do to get out of stadiums right now with a W.
Yep, and Hodges right now is your best option, and as long as he continues to play reasonably well and his team wins games, he's going to be your starter going forward, and as you said earlier, as he should be.
Daniel R.C. writes in, David Alex, first of all, thanks for the site and the podcast. It's far and away the best one out there for educating and objective info and analysis on the Steelers. Too often those other sites and forums are just ridiculous with the homerism, conspiracy theories, and general armchair coaching and GM. You guys had a realistic view on the coaching and players. That's what we try to do. Dan, my question is, what do you think the explanation is for the drop-off in Jalen Samuels' performance this season? I think we're all stoked to see him pick up where he left off last year. Coming into camp more conditioned, a la Connor's year 2. Is it teams knowing how to attack him, that there's tape? Is it knee injury still lagging, or do you think it's something else? Keep up the good work. I am amused. Look, you go back to that. I think Alex and I talked about the other day with Samuels in his good game to date, which was against the Patriots. I think they were not concerned. They were going to let him get his. He had a lot of those those counter runs, out of shotgun or whatnot next to Ben and all, and yeah, that was a good performance there. But remember, this guy too really still doesn't have a lot of experience as a true running back. We talked about earlier in the show about him being a good Wildcat guy. Well, he if there's one thing he did good in the backfield carrying the football at NC State, it was that. So I think you still got a guy still trying to develop overall as a running back. Will he ever get? He did have some good runs yesterday, though. And we highlighted at least the one pass pro. Oh, what did you think about the other pass pro on Benny Snell? Was it just late recognition on it? I thought that was Samuels at first, but I saw on tape it was Benny Snell. Just late recognition. I mean, it was perfectly timed off the edge too. There was no hint of that coming.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good scheme. They're blitzing away from where the backs lined up. Snell was looking at, blitz to his left side. Nothing came. He was a little late with his eyes. So you're right, just a little late with his eyes. For Samuels, I agree with everything you said. He's not a natural runner necessarily, but I thought he played well yesterday. So he doesn't have that super special trait that stands out in the backfield. Was more of a receiver than a runner at NC State. But yesterday was an impressive performance.
How they going to use these guys moving forward here is going to be, interesting to say the least once Connor gets back going. Let's see, what else do we have here? Will Fernandez writes in, Happy Victory Monday, David Knox. Although it won't happen, I sure think that Mike Thomas should get some consideration for Coach of the Year with AB gone, Bell not resigned, Ben lost for the season, playing in essence his fourth string quarterback. He's done a tremendous job with his team. What do you guys think? Thank you for both for all the great Steelers content. Will in New Jersey here. Look, I saw a couple of people saying now, well, he should get it, but he probably won't get it. I'm on record going back to the beginning of November saying if they get in the playoffs and they win, at least I think the key is winning one playoff game. If he gets his team in the playoffs and they bow out, then it'll be like, oh, that's just another one of those weak teams, right. One of those teams that got in a weak, conference or whatever. However, if they get in and they win at least one playoff game, I don't see how you can't give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of obviously good worthy candidates this year, but for my money at least, in the
AFC right now, who would you put in the Tennessee head coach? Maybe Vrabel. Obviously,
I would give Tomlin over Vrabel. I mean, people are going to say Harbaugh, for what the Ravens have done this year, which is fair. I think Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco certainly would be very worthy and deserving of it. But for me, just long story short, even if this team just gets in the playoffs, even if they don't win a playoff game for Tomlin, it'll be his best coaching performance of his coaching tenure in Pittsburgh.
I mean, I think McDermott in Buffalo, would be as good a candidate as any. But right. once again, I think with if you look at, everybody wrote this team off once Ben left second half of that Seattle game. And here they are 7-5, yada yada schedule, blah blah blah. You still got to win the game. So if they get in and they win a playoff game, I don't see how he doesn't get it, to be quite honest with you.
I hope so. He would certainly deserve it. The hand he was dealt has been worse than any other team this year. And the stat I had on my stats of the weird is since Tomlin took over in 2007, there have been 66 teams in the NFL that have begun the year 1-4, Pittsburgh included. Only 4 of them, including this year's Steelers, have made it back to 7-5. So in really, really rare company.
So they're not trading them to Washington for a couple of first-round picks or whatnot?
Doesn't that feel like a lifetime ago we were talking about that? And the hot takes back then, Dave. I'm sure you can find some of those takes. Not from you, obviously, but from other media members that were just like, yeah, trade him, send them out of here. It's a great idea. Snyder's got a plane in Pittsburgh. Like, that feels like an eternity ago and certainly not going to happen.
Eric writes in, David Knox, please rank the following statements in terms of their likelihood. Bud Dupree will be the NFL's highest paid linebacker in 2020. B, Bud Dupree will be a Steeler in 2020. C, the Steelers will make Bud Dupree the NFL's highest paid linebacker in 2020. I think the situation has quickly evolved from they need to try to retain him to they can't afford to let him walk. I'm old enough to remember the outrage when his fifth-year option was picked up. That was quickly turned into a one-year prove-it contract, and he certainly has proven it. Yeah, it's called results. Look, we're supposed to rank these, I guess, of the likelihood. So I don't think he's going to be the highest paid linebacker. So that's not going to be number one. I guess I'd have to rank them B as far as likelihood. Bud Dupree will be a Steeler in 2020. The way these are set up, I think I'd have to make that the most likely. And then, I don't know what I'd do with it. Both of them are kind of saying the same thing, right. Highest paid linebacker in 2020. I don't think he's going to be the highest paid linebacker in 2020. He'll be up there, but I don't think that'll be it.
Not more. We considering Khalil Mack a linebacker in this scenario? Because if you do, then he's not going to get more money than Khalil Mack. I have it as Steelers. In likelihood, Steelers will re-sign him. He'll be the highest paid linebacker in football. Then the Steelers will make him the highest paid linebacker in football. I don't think he'll be the highest paid linebacker in football, Pittsburgh or otherwise. But that's how I lay it out, responding to that question.
And look, you can depends on how bad you want him. You can make it work.
Yeah. You gotta find a way to at least bring one of Hargrave or Dupree back, right? You can't lose both of those guys, can you?
Well, we'll see. You can, but there's ways to handle it. Just depending on how if you want to massage it that way.
Right.
Michael Hewlett writes in, not Steelers related, but what if Buffalo wins the AFC East? I feel like that would help us out tremendously if we were to make the playoffs, and I understand we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's cross that bridge when we get there. You got four we'll be looking back at these and say, oh, Lord, remember when we thought that the Steelers might make the playoffs? I mean, I'll tell you what, this has been one hell of a damn entertaining season.
Yeah, I mean, you always reference the Hollywood script. I mean, it gets better and better, and it's looking pretty optimistic right now. So hopefully they can actually write this one with a good ending.
And look, I mean, for Buffalo to win the AFC East, wouldn't that mean that they'd probably have to beat the Steelers in there somewhere a couple of weeks as well too? So let's not even go there, Michael. Tony writes in. Hey guys, I'm Tony from Virginia. Quick question for you guys. Duck is shown to be a capable quarterback. If a team comes calling this offseason and offers a mid to late round pick for Rudolph, should the Steelers accept the offer? I don't think so. I mean, unless you gave me a second or a first round pick, which I don't think you'd get for him. Look, injuries happen, man. Why? And you got these guys cheap under contract. I don't know why you would accept, let's say, a 5th round pick for Rudolph.
Yeah, it would obviously depend on what it is. If it's a 7th, I'm not going to do that. If it was a 3rd or a high 4th, though, kind of hard to turn that down when you have limited draft capital based on the way Rudolph's played. But I don't think any teams are going to be exactly beating down the Steelers' door for missing Rudolph this offseason.
Corey writes in, looking to the next couple of seasons with Big Ben running the show, do you guys think this team can be elite? This defense combined with a Big Ben-led offense is something I can't wait to see as long as they get help at wide receiver. Also, that being said, do you think Steelers should find a top-tier wide receiver in free agency or draft? Well, man, I know it's 4 games left in the season, but it still feels like things are so far away, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who is going to stay? I mean, are they going to be able to keep Bud Dupree? If not, you got a hole to fill there. You would think they're going to be able to retain a good chunk of this defense, obviously. But at the same point, you might lose a guy like Hargrave and Dupree on top of it. And yeah, I mean, you would think that offense marginally better, incredibly better, with Ben back running the show. What's going to be different, on the offensive line? Are we going to have a different left guard next year? Yes, it's okay to be optimistic about what seems to be out there, but remember, a third of this roster every year churns.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a lot of your key pieces are coming back. So yes, I think provided you can keep at least one of Hargrave or Dupree, you're going to have an elite defense. Even if you lose both, you still should have really strong defense, and hopefully some new guys could step in and step up. So short answer is yes. And then to the receiver question, probably not. I mean, you see the way James Washington's progressing. Jude is going to be back with Ben next year. That'll be huge for him. Obviously, you just drafted Deontay Johnson this year. You're going to add a receiver to that group, whether that's a lower level free agent or a mid-level, day 3 kind of draft pick. But I'm not going to have wide receiver as a super high priority. You have your 3 guys. You want to add depth and keep adding to that pool, sure. But you don't need to spend a 2nd-round pick on a receiver next year, nor do you need to spend a lot of money in free agency on the position.
Yeah, I got 3rd or 4th round still for that kind of 6'4", 4'3", 4'4" guy or whatever.
So check Alabama or Clemson, it's probably where that's coming from next year.
But it's just still, it just feels like it's still so far away. Coach of the Year from Danielle from Australia. Given the adversity that this team has faced with a 1-4 start and our franchise quarterback on IR, I'm just impressed. So impressed that we are currently the 6th seed at this point in the season. Do you think that there's any chance that Tomlin would be awarded Coach of the Year? Dan, I think we already kind of covered that from another reader there. I most definitely think that they get in the playoffs and win one. Michael Woo writes in, hi, David. I'll have some quick questions for you guys. Do you happen to know the last time the Steelers failed to score 30 points in a game over an entire season? I would imagine that would put them with some pretty poor company unless they can turn things around. You got that up?
I was just looking that set up yesterday, funny enough. Let me see if I wrote it down at all. Oh, I don't know if I wrote where I wrote it down. I want to say
last time the Steelers failed to score 30 points in a game over an entire season.
I believe it was 98. Let me check that because I don't know where I wrote it down or if I wrote it down. No, they scored 30 in 98. It might have been then 71. Let me do this on the fly really quickly here with Pro Football Reference.
Yeah, put it in the
In,
machine there.
in 1971, their high was 26. I believe, don't quote me 100% because I'm going to have that stat. I have it kind of on the ready if they don't hit that mark because they haven't scored more than 28 in a game. So I was looking at that. I believe it was 71 the last time they didn't do that in a season.
Will they score 30 at least once this year?
I don't know. Even with Duck providing a better boost, I mean, they don't have any. If they do it, it might come this week against Arizona because that's not a very good defense, at least on paper. So if there's a time to do it, it might be this upcoming week, especially if they can get one of Juju or Connor back.
You know, you go into every game thinking what's going to happen if the defense doesn't get a turnover or something along those lines. Look, they're winning. That's all that counts right here. But at some point in these next final 4 games, they're going to need the offense to score more than, let's say, I don't know, 25 points probably. Whether that be against Baltimore. Look, I mean, if Baltimore keeps winning, their finale will mean nothing to them. If they win their next 3, Baltimore doesn't need to play against Pittsburgh, regardless of what New England does.
Right. Yeah. So that's possible too. Go to the next. I'm gonna return to this question because I'm looking it up concretely now. But go to the next question and I'll circle back
would you rather the Steelers travel to Would you rather the Steelers travel to Foxborough or Baltimore for a hypothetical divisional round game? The Ravens still seem like the much better team, but I can't remember the last time the Steelers played well in Foxborough. I know that's getting way ahead of ourselves, but I'm just curious who you'd be rooting for to get the number 1 seed. I got to be honest with you. I like to play Baltimore again. I'd like to see what they could do a second round time against that offense.
It'd be a fun matchup with the Steelers defense, probably doing the best job of any team this year of holding Lamar Jackson in check. I had the hypothetical yesterday in a Twitter poll. If the Steelers played New England this weekend, what kind of game do you think you'd have? Because the Patriots have kind of the same issues where the offense is struggling, the defense is playing well. I mean, do you think that's a close game? Do you think the Steelers could win that game potentially? How do you think a hypothetical Duck versus Brady matchup would play out?
I think the Patriots would win it.
Yeah. Would it be close?
I think it'd be a touchdown.
I think so too.
You know, maybe not within a touchdown, maybe right at a touchdown. Number 3, from the 30,000-foot view, do you think this team is a good team? They beat the Colts and Rams, but since then, both those teams have taken a step back and maybe not have been what they thought they were. The Steelers seem to do just enough to beat bad or mediocre teams, but not so much beyond that. Realistically, what do you think their ceiling is? What would you consider a successful season from this point on? Look, you can go back to the Colts game and say, well, the Steelers really deserve to lose that game. But you could go back to the game against the Ravens earlier in the season and say, yeah, maybe they deserve to win that one, even though they fumbled away the football right there. What is this team, Alex? I mean, look, I think are they overachieving right now, or are they achieving?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think they're achieving. I think they're a good team. They're a great defense. They're a below average to at times bad offense, but I think with Duck you're better. So I think overall it kind of evens out to a good team. And I think for me a successful season is making the playoffs. Obviously you want to win a game, that'd be nice, but I think just the act of making the playoffs in a competitive wild card race with the hand that this team's been dealt, I think that in itself is a successful season.
I think with them, they've got to grow. I mean, I've said it time and time again. You get your defense to that certain number underneath 5. You got a damn good defense. I don't care who you're playing. At this point, that's what it is.
Right. It's so hard to play good defense in today's NFL, regardless of opponent. Look at Miami just put up 37 on Philadelphia. Like it's hard to play defense in today's NFL.
If you've got a top 5 defense when it comes to that stat, then it's playoff worthy. It's a playoff-worthy team. Now, whether or not your offense can hold up their part in the playoffs, I think right now. So what's the expectations right now, or what's the how did he end that?
Successful season.
Yeah. How would you consider it a successful season? I think where they sit right now, I think getting in the playoffs and winning at least one game.
If they don't win, if they make the playoffs and they lose the wild card game, do you think it's? I still define that as a successful season.
If they get in, and I guess it depends on how who and what, but I think people should be pleased as punch right now that they're 7-5
Right.
with these 4 games left. So we'll see. I mean, he's coaching his ass off, I'll tell you that, and they're doing a lot with a little, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I still. Well, the way the defense is playing, I think that they can get in and win one. I think I'll be disappointed right now if they don't get in and win one game.
Yeah, I hear you. Also, yeah, I did double check the question from earlier. 1971, last time this team didn't put up 30 in a season, and their high that year was 26. The Steelers' high this year is 27. So there's the numbers.
All right, Randy Smith. I've been very critical of Coach T the last few years. However, this year's proved me wrong, and I'm willing to man up and say that is Coach Tomlin in running for Coach of the Year, and has he proven his worth for another contract? My answer, absolutely. Yeah, Randy. Alex and I kind of discussed that. People that wanted him run out of town are probably going to be severely disappointed about how this season's gone right now.
No, they still want to run out of town. They just have to be quiet now until they lose another game, and then they'll pop back up.
Yeah, they wanted, I think, in the first quarter, all of them fired yesterday. Randy Smith, again, earlier this year during training camp preseason, it seemed as if everyone was huge on Duck. However, everyone knew it wasn't realistic, and y'all even made mention that it was basically a pipe dream for him to be on the 53. With Ben getting injured, that obviously opened up possibility of him getting the nod for a contract. But how much do you think that his play in training camp and preseason contributed to him getting the start against the Browns and probably the foreseeable future? Short version of the question: how much of his training camp and preseason showing allowed the coaching staff to have the necessary confidence in him to name him the starter above the struggling Mason Rudolph? I think it had a lot. I mean, he made a mark, evidently right from camp on. So that if they didn't have confidence in him, they wouldn't have started him.
Yeah, I mean, I would take it slightly different and actually say none, but only in the sense of, it was what he did in the Chargers game that gave him confidence to have him start another game. What allowed him the performance of camp and preseason allowed him to come back to the roster when Ben went down. So that got his foot in the door, in that sense of it. But to him to actually go from being on the team to starting was his play from every point then on forward against the Chargers in practice, during the week, all that kind of stuff, filling in against Baltimore, and then coming in to be the named starter against this past week. So that's my perspective of it, is that what he did in preseason got him back on the roster. What he did after that got him into that starting position.
And look, there's no pressure on him. The pressure was on Mason.
Right.
There's no pressure on Devlin Hodges.
Mm-hmm.
None.
Agreed.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't care what he does from here on out. There's no pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing like there's no pressure on him.
Right.
Let's see. I got one more here. Hey, Dave and Brian. Oh, I guess he thinks I'm two people.
Dave and Brian.
Sometimes I am. A lot of times I am, actually. Hey, Dave and Brian. That's supposed to be Alex. Love what you guys do. Keep it up. I was wondering if you guys feel the Steelers should still take either a quarterback, wide receiver, or running back in those day 2 or 3 picks. Personally, no. I feel Devlin is showing, and that's me saying personally, no, not him. I feel Devlin is showing a lot, but feel we still need another to compete with him. James Conner is good, but he's always injured, and Samuels is not the guy. Or are you guys okay with just Snell and Conner? Personally, I'd go with those. With whatever you get in like the 2nd or 3rd round, I don't think it needs to be a quarterback, running back, or wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm probably with you. I mean, you're probably going to address maybe running back, certainly receiver later on, but early in the draft, you'll be looking at tight end, backup safety, dime player, obviously nose tackle, outside linebacker. If Hargrave, Dupree end up walking, you're going to have probably more pressing issues to address in those areas, and those things could also be addressed in low-level free agents in free agency. So you're talking running back or receiver. So short answer is I agree with you, Dave. You're probably not going to address that super high, and certainly not going to address quarterback.
J.J. Walker writes in, saying, hey, Dave and Alex, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. My question is, with the way Duck and the offense performed against the Browns, do you guys think he and the Steelers offense as a whole will provide enough scoring to get us into playoffs or make a run once? That's the question. The bigger question is, can the defense continue playing at the level that they're playing? I think they'll have to do that. But once again, if you get into playoffs and you want to make a run, you look back at history and it says one of the deficient side of football generally has to have that one game where they have to carry things. And right now, I'm not overly convinced the offense can be that side of football. But look, I mean, you got out of there with a win, all right? You would think that they're going to be able to get out. You would hope that they're going to be able to get out of Arizona with the win. The next big test might be the game against Buffalo.
Yeah,
and that defense.
That's probably your biggest test the rest of the season, especially if Baltimore ends up sitting guys in Week 17, which is looking relatively likely at this point. So, yeah, I mean, the answer to that, I don't know. I mean, that is, as you said, Dave, the million-dollar question. I don't know how much more you're going to get from this offense. I would like to think it'll continue to improve, A, as Duck gets more experience and reps and gets more comfort back there, and B, as your team gets healthier with guys like Juju and Connor coming back. So how high does that take you? I don't know. But as you said, that's going to kind of define how far this team's going to go as it plays of its offense.
And look, don't forget Pouncey. I mean, you got to get Pouncey back rested too at that. I mean, how great is it to I mean, it's unfortunate for him. He's losing the paychecks here the last 2 weeks, but you won both of the games without him.
You ran well both games.
He's going to be itching to get back.
Right.
Okay. Connor, we'll see. I mean, honestly, we don't know what the status this week against Arizona is going to be with those two. We might not know even until going into Friday with those two there. But at some point, you would think you're going to get those guys back, and you think you're assuming that Devlin's still making the progress and still starting. You would think that the offense would get better. I mean, they're running the ball better already. I mean, that's a plus there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, we're on charter territory here, guys and gals.
Right. Yeah. The short answer is I don't know, but I'm really excited to find out.
I don't know either. Tamir writes in, greetings, Depot team, and happy Victory Monday. Hope you two are well. Wanted to get both of your takes on the following statement and how it resonates with y'all. The trade-off from Hodges' perceived fearlessness, ability to extend, yearn for a big play is much more advantageous to the Steelers' future success than Mason's tendency to lean on easier throw. Here's the thing. If Mason completes, I mean, here's a big difference right here. Their receivers are making some plays on the outside.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So we saw him start to try to put the football down the field. He just was not. They were just not coming down with it on the other end. Now some of them, could have been placed better ball placement at all. But we are seeing these receivers make catches right now, and that's always good.
Yeah, I think it's certainly some matter of circumstance with Rudolph is that, he started to struggle as the receiver started to play well, and now that he's been benched, you're seeing the receivers really step up and make plays. It's better when you're throwing to James Washington on the deep ball as opposed to Johnny Holton 14 times. So I understand that. But yeah, I think Hodges' element of playing a little more open, a little bit more free, and being able to take some more chances and calculated, aggressive decision is beneficial and something that Rudolph hasn't done enough. So point taken on the question.
He also talks about turnovers. I believe that although Fichtner is probably making the both quarterbacks right, don't turn the ball over 100 times on the chalkboard. The skill set of Duck is more tailored to the style of football needed to success down the road and possibly chance of postseason games. Much love, you guys. The tireless work never goes unnoticed. Look, I'm ready for this 19-game streak to end.
Mm-hmm, me too. But I will say with Hodges that he is providing more splash plays in the past game with fewer turnovers than what Rudolph was doing by the time he got benched. So that's when you have both of those elements. A, you're getting bigger plays downfield, and B, you're having fewer turnovers overall. That's an easy decision of what direction to go quarterback.
Well, when you throw 4 in 30-something attempts, that's easy to beat.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, but hey.
All right, we're running a little bit long here. Jason, sorry we couldn't get to you. Matt Joe, sorry, we'll try to get some of these. Sean, we'll try to get some of these on the next show. So we're just running a little bit long on time here. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. You want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. If you want an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button for $25. You can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. I think I get a couple emails every once in a while. People say, I signed up for it, but I'm still getting the ads. You have to go log in. There's a login button up top that says log in. The username and the password you created, whether you're using desktop or mobile, you have to log in order to experience the ad-free version of the site. So I think maybe occasionally we get a sign up there where people say all I have to do is sign up, and then automatically no, you got to hit the login button, and sometimes however your computer or cookies might be whatnot, you might get logged out. So make sure you logged in to experience, because I get some of those emails occasionally there on that. But it's a good offer, $25. A lot of people still take. I think we get 2 or 3 maybe sign-ups on that a week there. So in the meantime, we'll be back on, what is today? Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.